Welcome back again, everybody, to Iconic Rod and Custom, and this really is episode 7. Last time I posted a video, it was actually episode 6, and I even said it in the beginning of it, this is episode 6. But when I did the thumbnail and the title, I don't know, somehow I thought it was episode 7. Getting ahead of myself, I guess. But we're going to continue on the roof and a few other things to get this all enclosed in, so stick around.
So once I have the front section of the roof panel fitting the way I like it, I'm going to take it off. We're going to dress it, clean it all up, sand it. But as you can see from left to right, as I pan up and down, you can see how it flows with that rear panel of the cab. So I've just welded that front roof reinforcement in, and here I'm dressing it up. I'm going to be using weld-through primer and other primers to encapsulate this so it doesn't rust before I put the front roof skin back on it. It's always really important to try to remember to primer or finish whatever you're going to do as far as your final product, to make sure that it lasts a long time. Whether it's going to be seen or not, it's still important that, we put some kind of protection on that. Now here you can see on the roof panel that I have finish sanded it after I metal worked it some more. I had some tweaking to do on it to get it to fit just perfect. So I'm going to clamp it all on there. And here's a shot of the underside. I got to get under there. I got to get inside and dress those up as well.
Alright, now since I have the roof panel clamped back on after I made the front roof support, extended it so it fits, next I need to make these inner reinforcements to go the whole way back to the rear panel now. So that's the next step.
Now to make these pieces up, there's a number of different ways you can go about doing it. I'm using this 48-inch metal brake, and I'm just making a series of small bends to create that contour that I need. You can do this over a workbench. You can use a hammer and dolly. There's multiple ways that this can be done. Now I'm going to make this piece up on the metal brake, and then I'm going to go to the bead roller and make the other one up from that. So I have a guide fence set up now for this, and I will adjust that each time I run this through. Now as you can see, I already made a pass through before I remember to turn the camera on, but that seems to happen an awful lot with me. But anyway, I'm going to run it through multiple times and I'll adjust that fence. So now for the test fit. I also ran these through the shrinker to put a little bit of a bow on it so they're not completely straight. Now you can't really see that at the angle that the camera is at. So once I'm happy with the one, we'll do the other, get them set into place, and then it's time to make the other parts. Order of business is to make the cross member for the rear section of the roof that we need to fabricate yet. Now I'm going to make this out of 3 pieces. Ultimately it's going to be a left, a right, and a center piece. Now the reason I do this is because of the way it's shaped and the process that it's done. Once I have the 3 pieces cut out, I'm going to make a couple of marks and measurements, and then I'll go over to the brake and get them bent up, and then it's off to the fabrication table. Now, since these pieces are 60 inches long, I have to use an 8-foot brake for this. Now there's two 90-degree angle bent, and the center section is actually a C-channel looking piece. Now I'm going to take the center section, I'm going to lay some lines out. Now I'm going to lay the center line out the entire length of it, and then I'm going to come back through and make marks every so often so they're spaced evenly. And what we're going to do, we're going to make lightning holes. I'm going to drill these holes out to a specific diameter, and then I'm going to come back through with dimple dies, and this actually makes the panel look aesthetically pleasing, but yet stronger and lighter. Now obviously these little holes aren't going to make much of a difference in weight, but you get the principle. You know, you can use bigger holes and larger panels, and it's just a race car fabricator's method to lighten the vehicle up. You know, realistically, this piece is going to get covered up with the headliner and you're not going to see it anyway. But you never know. You know, 100 years from now, maybe somebody will want to redo the vehicle or the interior and take it down and say, wow, look at that. Whoever built this really did a nice job. And that's what really counts. So once I have all the holes drilled with the step bit, I'm going back through, I'm going to dress up the burrs, get rid of them, and get ready for the dimple die. So that part's all done. Look how nice that looks. Almost too nice to cover up. So now I'm over on the shrinker, and you can see how that bends that metal nice and even. The more you press, the more it creates the shape. If you overdo it, you can just go to the other one. In this case, I'm using the shrinker, and if I go too much, I just go over to the stretcher and bring it back the way it was. Simple as that. Now I'll make the first piece up, and then I'll use that as a pattern for the other side, so they're symmetrical. So I lost some footage due to battery dying, and I didn't realize it. So I didn't get the center section being shaped into, but here it is tacked together. I'll go back through and I'll TIG weld it. But here it is sitting in position so you get an idea of what it looks like. Now I have to make up two more pieces, the cross section for the very rear and the front center section. This will allow that rear roof panel that we need to shape up yet. The ends, the edges of them will lay flush onto that to help support that. We're going to take a little break from working on the roof for the moment, and we're going to work on the cowl panel and the dash on some filler pieces. Now, Scott had already fabbed up and tack welded in these two pieces, but it just dawned on me that the holes where the wiper arms were located need relocated to fit the new width of the vehicle. So I'm going to do that before it skips my mind again. So I'm going to get some measurements, and I'm going to make some notes. I've already measured the width of the mechanics of the wiper system itself, but I'm going to lay this out, cut it out, and then I'll make up new pieces with new oval holes to put in place of that, and then we'll check it to make sure everything fits. As the old adage goes, measure twice and cut once, but it's only metal. Now you'll see this long 4-inch cutoff tool used an awful lot. We use a lot of these 4-inch cutoff wheels. They're an awesome tool. We also make up a lot of paper patterns. It's paramount that you have an accurate pattern to make your part from the first time. Now originally the pieces that I cut out of the cowl panel for the windshield wiper access, I was just going to flip them over, but then ultimately I decided to make new pieces of metal up and re-drill the holes so they're perfect. Now if you watch as I make each tack, I check it with my finger to make sure it's flush. If not, I'll tap it down or raise it up if I need to from the underside like that, and make my tack so everything is nice and even when it's ground down and dressed up. Metal finishing is an art form of its own. And apparently here Scott and I are both taking turns in front of the camera in the limelight. We get in each other's road sometimes, but it's all good. So here is the wiper motor and the mechanics. Just going to check it. Make sure the distance for the holes is correct, and we're good to go. Since these are oval holes, I'll use the pieces that I cut out to trace, and then I will use a reamer on a die grinder and make them oval, and that job's done. I'll run over and grab the motor and the mechanism again to recheck just to make sure. And it's all good. So now that I know that that's okay and it should work fine, I'm going to grind down these tack welds, make it look a little better, and then we're going to get back on the roof panel. Now I have the sheet metal blank cut out for the roof panel on the rear part of it. And as you can see, I have a grid pattern laid out, box within a box within a box. Now this very outside edge is what we call the frame, and generally we don't want to do any shaping on that. That'll help retain all the shape within, the tension within the panel. So we're going to use a combination of the English wheel and the power hammer to do this. Now the box in the center will get the most stretching with the machines, and as you work your way out, the outer box will get less. And this is a two-man operation because this is a bigger panel, so Scott and I team up to get this shaped, and we'll check it several times obviously as we go through this whole process. Now I lost some video footage, and we had it on the power hammer as well, but the battery died, as I said, and we didn't realize it. I just kept moving the camera, and yeah, so be it. We're using a low crown anvil on this English wheel. We don't need a ton of crown in this panel, but the tracking pattern, we try to keep it as even and tight as possible. We're not using a ton of pressure, but when we do this, we're going to do it in several different directions, so we create an even flow throughout this panel. So after we check the fitness of this panel many times, this is what we come up with. Now this, if you remember in the very beginning, before we ever cut this apart, we made this sweep that had the contour of the original roof on it. Now as you can see, the edges need tightened up a little bit, but the shape is there across the whole top of it. Now it's shiny because I have WD-40 on it. We ran it through the power hammer a couple times and planish hammer, smoothed some things up, but we're almost there. It's looking really nice. So now that we're really happy and satisfied with the shape this panel has taken on so far, it's time to take everything back apart, because before we weld anything in, we're going to put a hidden roll cage in this. That means it's going to be up under the headliner. It's going to be tight up against the roof panel. And this again is where we have to be thinking a step or two ahead so we don't miss anything. Now when you're doing a build like this, it's going to go together and come apart so many times that you can almost put it together in your sleep. And here again, this roll cage is going to be hidden, so nobody's really going to see it, but it doesn't matter. It still has to be done to a high standard. So part of the process is done by bowing the tubing. Now we're going to use a Swag Off-Road Harbor Freight conversion kit, and this works really nice. As you can see, it's putting a nice bow, the contour that we need to go from left to right. And then we'll go over to another tubing bender to make the sharper angled bends on it, the radiuses. Now the roofing cross braces that we fabricated and shaped a little earlier, we're just using them for pattern for this tubing. It works perfect. And as you can see, we have the rear hoop made up and set into position on the pillars. We'll catch you on the next one. Hope to see you. Front bar is the full size. Ferrari special socket wire